Normally, when we talk about Syria, we have to offer a disclaimer to be responsible journalists that when we show you a video from Syria, it's amateur video and we don't have a clear source sometimes. Today, we do. We have some new video by a freelance journalist, Christy Wilcox, who's just spent 3 months traveling through Syria, getting a first-hand look at the civil war. She recently returned to the United States and joins us live from Los Angeles, and we're glad to have her with us. Christy, first of all, just tell us about when and how you decided to travel to Syria.
Well, you know, it was a long process, a long decision in the making. Several other people, I'm a big fan of traveling internationally, and unfortunately, there's a lot of chaos going on in Syria right now. And I believed that their story needed to be told, so that was a main reason for me going overseas.
So it's interesting that Leland just mentioned an attack on a refugee camp, and you've spent some time videotaping refugees in the area. We have some of that video. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, you know, I spent a lot of time in the refugee camp that is just over the Syrian border. When I was there in August, there was really nothing there. And then in the most recent months, you're seeing thousands of refugees or internally displaced people come from inside Syria out to these refugee camps because they don't have electricity, they don't have food, they don't have water. So they're trying to get fed. They're trying to find safety. Some of the issues that you're going to see in the refugee camp, especially when you're looking at the bombardments, is you know, this with the no-fly zone not being accessible there, they're going and they're bombing some of these tents, you know. So when you have thousands of people coming into the refugee camp with no place to stay, they're forced to go back into the population as well.
One of the other video items that we have, video clips that you shot, brings us outside of Aleppo. And that's a city that we've talked a lot about, and the back and forth between rebel forces there, who we call rebel forces, as well as the government. Tell us a little bit about your experience there, as well as, you know, what your sense is of the quote-unquote rebels that are fighting this war.
You know, it was a really interesting community. The community is Al-Bab, and it sits right outside of Aleppo. And when it was liberated, it was right around the beginning of Ramadan, and they bombed this hospital that's known for kidney transplants that sits up on this hill. And what they're trying to do is create a little normalcy out of living an abnormal life. So the video you're seeing here is the hospital that's been bombed. But what they did was they took the people that were in this hospital and they created kind of a makeshift area inside some of the mosques where they would take, you know, the opposition fighters, they would take civilians who've been injured, and they would put them in there. And, you know, at times, hopefully they have enough medical staff, enough treatment facilities inside these facilities, makeshift facilities that they've
Sure.
actually developed.
And we're showing some of that footage as well. Final video that you brought us, and we're so grateful to get some of your insights on this. Just on Friday, we learned that there was a decision made that some NATO troops, including American troops, are going to be sent to the border between Turkey and Syria, as well as Patriot missiles. And that's where you spent a lot of your time. Tell us about this border. How vulnerable is it? What will these troops confront?
Well, you know, at this point, I think it's just the right thing for the American government to do. I mean, we've seen so much bombardment. When I was on the border, and this video that you're seeing is Akshakali, which is where the original spillover was starting to take place. This is in Tel Abyad, where the rebels are kind of gearing up to fight against the Syrian government. And the people were really scared. You know, the town in Tel Abyad where the spillover was happening, the Syrian government was hitting them very, very hard, and it was leaking over to the town next to it in Turkey. So, you know, it's only right for them to be able to defend themselves. I mean, I think the one thing that Turkey did really well was they stepped up right off the bat and they said, this is what's acceptable and this is what's not acceptable, which is the reason why the regime backed off from the get-go. And that's what we need to continue to do, is to support our allies.
It's a very interesting perspective for us today, Christy. Thank you so much for joining us and also sharing your video. We look forward to having you back. Appreciate it very much.
Thanks, Jenna.